Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today is Tuesday, which means that once again there was a title Tuesday. I started the tournament off pretty well. I was 7 out of 7, and in round number 8 I was up against none other than Hikaru Nakamura. So I was leading the tournament, so the sole lead 7 out of 7, and Hikaru was chasing me with 6.5 out of 7 games. Alright, so let's have a look at what happened. Hikaru opened the game with the move b3, and I played the move d5, he goes bishop b2, and I go for bishop f5. So going for a reversed London system setup against his queenside fianchetto. Alright, so Hikaru goes d3, e6, and knight d2. So very interesting stuff. He wants to go for a quick e4 push to attack my bishop. Alright, so I go h6, e4, and bishop h7, talking in the bishop. But perhaps this approach of mine was a little bit risky, as Hikaru now could have taken on d5. And here, it's not that easy for black. For example, if I recapture with the pawn, this check on e2 is pretty annoying to deal with. You cannot block with the bishop, because that's going to hang the pawn on g7, and actually you lose a full rook. And okay, knight e7 is also not ideal, because then my development is a little bit stuck. So maybe queen e7, but that also feels a little bit clumsy. So perhaps that's what he should have done. I think I should have recaptured with the queen, but here still white has chances for an advantage after, let's say, knight f3, followed by g3 and bishop g2. Anyway, Hikaru played g3 right away. I played knight f6, neutralizing the pressure along this diagonal. He plays bishop g2, and I go bishop to e7. Here, once again, perhaps he should have taken on d5 right away, because again, this check on e2 is a little bit annoying, because after bishop e7, he can take and give me double pawns. Anyway, he played bishop g2, I go bishop e7, and now I should be doing more or less okay. He played knight h3, interesting move, developing the knight to the side of the board. I mean, the knight can sometimes jump back via the f4 square. Right, so I castle, he castle, and I play a5, aiming to go a4 and chip away at his queenside. So Hikaru plays the move pawn to a3 with the idea that if I go a4 now, he wants to meet that with the move b4. Alright, so in these positions, I can also continue with a move like c5, but I didn't quite want to do that because I was always a little bit worried that he would take. And after pawn takes knight f4, there's quite a bit of pressure on my pawn on d5, which is why I went for a completely different approach. I decided to trade on e4, he recaptures with the pawn, and develop my knight to the more active c6 square, so fighting for these central squares in the middle. Hikaru goes knight f4, like I said, the knight often jumps back to the center this way, and now I go bishop to c5, so activating that bishop. I want to go bishop d4 in some cases, offering the trade, as very often the pressure on my knight at f6 can be quite annoying. And here he goes e5, interesting moment in the game. He's attacking my knight on f6, and I have a decision to make here. I can go knight d7, putting pressure on the pawn on e5, but I thought that after, I don't know, a move like knight c4, rook e1, it's difficult to actually win that pawn, and he definitely should have the more active position. So instead of that, I played the move knight d5, centralizing my knight. Alright, so here he traded, I took, and I think I should be doing quite fine here. My bishop on h7 is quite active, I have some active pieces. His knight on d2, slightly clumsy. If he goes knight f3, can always put the bishop on e4, which could be annoying for him. So Hikaru played rook e1, and here I played bishop to d4, so offering the trade of bishops, and my idea here is to put some pressure on the pawn on e5. Right, so Hikaru went queen c1 to defend the bishop on b2, and now I'll go rook e8, hitting the pawn on e5, which again is a little awkward to protect. And if he goes knight f3, I think I should be doing quite fine after, let's say, takes and bishop b4. I have some pressure on the knight over here, the pawn on e5 feels a little bit weak, I can always follow up with queen to e7. So Hikaru went for a different approach. He played pawn to c4, ignoring the threat on his own pawn and putting pressure on my pawn on d5. But here I found an excellent move. I played rook takes e5. And the lines work out quite nicely for black. For example, in case white takes on d4, I can take on e1, and if he recaptures, I take with the knight. And he's not entitled to take on d5, as then I'll have a fork on c2, on the queen and the rook, and black should win the game. And if, for example, he takes on d5 right away, well then I can take on e1, he takes, I take on b2, I'm up a piece, and black is winning. Alright, so Hikaru found the right move. He played rook takes e5. Now I have to recapture with the bishop. Obviously, I cannot take with the knight, as that's going to hang my bishop. So I take with the bishop, and now he takes on d5. So here I can take on b2, but I found a better move. I played knight d4, threatening a very unpleasant fork on e2, which would fork the queen and the king. And honestly, it's very difficult for white to stop. I mean, you can go bishop f1, but that's going to hang the pawn on d5, so that's really not good. So Hikaru decided to trade off my knight for his bishop, and now after takes, black is doing pretty well. I have a very nice bishop pair to work with. Also have some pressure on f2. The rook on a1 is under attack. I thought maybe he should play something like queen e1, but at the very least, I have moves like 92, take here, and black is doing absolutely fine because I have the bishop pair. All right, so Hikaru decided to trade on d4, I recaptured, and he goes rook a2, and here I realized that, hey, I should be doing pretty well here. Once again, I have a nice bishop pair, some pressure on f2, the pawn on d5 is often weak, and so I played the move queen to f6, hitting the pawn on f2, and here perhaps he should have played knight e4, defending the pawn on f2 with the knight and the rook, so I can take, and he recaptures. Black is a tiny bit better, but I feel like with correct play, white has pretty good chance to draw here. But instead he played knight f3. So defending against the threat on f2, by the way, my pawn on c7 is also hanging, which is why I played bishop to b6, moving the bishop out of the way and defending the pawn. And again, I have some pressure here. The position should be quite pleasant for me. And he played rook to e2, grabbing the only open file on the board before I'm able to do so. But here I played bishop to d3, hitting the rook. It goes rook e1 and rook d8, and the pawn on d5 is quite awkward to defend. And he plays the awkward move rook e5 to defend it. I was wondering during the game if he goes queen e2, then maybe I can take on d5. Because he has a check, king here, and okay, in case of knight g5 check, actually this just loses due to queen takes, and black's just winning. But apparently there's knight e1, and I have bishop e8, and if you take, he can take here, take in here. And again, black should be better because the bishop pair, but white has chance to hold. So perhaps after queen e2, I should have done something else. Maybe just move the bishop out of the way. And again, black's doing very well. I mean, I have two bishops, d5 is weak, these pawns can be weak, I have pressure on f2. Great position. But Hikaru played rook e5 to defend. I played bishop to d4, attacking the rook. He went back to e1, and I played bishop e6. And here, I kind of figure like, well, he will play on somehow, because he wants to win. He's half a point behind me in the standings. If he wants to settle Tuesday, he should try to win this game. But Hikaru just plays rook e5, and here I should have just played something else. Something like bishop f5, aiming to go bishop g4, putting pressure on knight, just somehow keep the game going. Understand, of course, Hikaru, very good player, but I have a big advantage here with the black pieces. So again, I feel like I definitely should have played on. Anyway, I played bishop to d4. I attacked the rook on d4 once again. Here already rook e1 would have been a threefold repetition, but I guess Hikaru really wanted to keep the game going, and instead he goes rook to h5. And here, again, I should have picked a different move. Something like maybe bishop e2, hitting the knight, which is quite awkward to defend. Actually, he doesn't have a good way to defend it directly, but fortunately for him, he does have to move rook h4, with the idea that in case I take here, he still has rook f4, hitting my queen and the bishop, keeping white firmly in the game. So yeah, after rook h5, like I felt like there were some chances, but I didn't quite see how to keep the game going. So, not easy. I mean, perhaps, yeah, I think I should have just kept the game going here, but instead I played bishop to b6, and now he had rook to e5, and this was a threefold repetition. So the game ended in a draw. Obviously, before the game, a good result, right? I played Hikaru with the black pieces. He outrates me by 200 points. But again, given the fact that I had a good position here, a bit disappointing because I definitely had my chances to win. Anyway, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.